Chicago's friendly little proletariat uprising. America's first competition talk show. You're in the hub.
Two major depressions in the last 100, 150 years in world affairs. When you look at what we are heading to right now in this country, there are a lot of economists right now who believe that we may be headed for a long-term depression before all is said and done in our economy. There are folks believing right now that the Dow could drop as low as 6,000, maybe even below 6,000. There are a lot of dire pronouncements regarding where we are headed as a nation, where we're headed in the economy. That you hear about residential market collapses, you hear about commercial markets potentially on the verge of collapsing in a lot of places, and obviously that's a lot more capital, that's a lot more dough than the residential markets. But ultimately, I mean, back in the late 1800s, you had the panic of the 1800s where you had rampant inflation going on, and then as far back as the Great Depression in the late 1920s and the early 30s, you had the same kind of thing happening. But one of the things that's different about this go around is that the last two times we had these experiences in this country, we weren't sitting on a $14 trillion debt ceiling with well over $13 trillion in a deficit we're still trying to finance, and looking at a budget which could be upwards of $2 to $4 trillion if they ever finally release it this year. So, there are folks spending both sides, but I feel a lot better knowing that the blight of job loss is made me feel really bad until recently when I heard Nancy Pelosi say that honestly, unemployment checks are the best way to stimmy and remedy unemployment. In other words, we need to lose our jobs to lower unemployment because we're not eligible for unemployment checks until we have. But the magic of unemployment in reducing unemployment can't work until we do, Jeff. So we have a fiduciary responsibility to ourselves and our posterity to go belly up, kick the can, and throw in the towel and lose our job. Nancy makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, she makes
Jeff?
a lot of sense.
She does.
Yeah.
Economists agree. She said so. I mean, you're a numbers man. You came in with pie charts, for God's sake. Well, you better impress me.
I don't even need to pull those out. Look, point, click, and print is not the solution, Joel. It is just not. It will not create jobs. Like I've said to you before, outside of here,
But you were inebriated that night.
No. I don't do that anymore. There's no way in the world that you can create jobs by just putting money out on the table. More entitlement programs. Good Lord. I mean, what are you going to do? We're going to have people just dependent on more programs. There is no way to create jobs without putting people back to work.
Yeah,
period.
which they can work within the programs that we create.
Well, I mean, there's enough.
Larry, that's what you're going to Congress to do, right? We're going to create. We need more programs.
No, we need to get the government out of the way. I mean, no one likes to work in an atmosphere where you're being micromanaged. And that's what the government's trying to do. They're trying to micromanage small business. If you want to look at the greatest growth we had in our country is back in the early 1900s, 1910, you had unemployment at 2%. You saw 7% growth because we didn't have an income tax. So if we want to get back, I'm not saying we do completely away with the free income tax, although the fair tax to me is the way we need to go. You've got to cut taxes, and then you're going to see jobs are going to grow. I mean, JFK did it. Reagan did it. Both Bushes, second Bush did it, and you saw jobs come. And that's the way to go. And let the government get out of the way and quit spending more of taxpayer money.
Well, and one of the things that's kind of interesting to me, and the recent G20 summit was saying that, the talk has been about inflation. We're about to have inflation or hyperinflation. Where inflation is the price of goods go up, or it takes more dollars to buy the existing goods. And they're saying that because of the money that we're printing, left and right, we've got so much money in the markets that the cost of goods can do nothing but go up because you've got to have somewhere to put the dollars that are floating around.
Well, I believe
there's another side of the equation that says we're going to have rampant deflation.
See,
where do you see it heading?
Well, I think you're going to see more inflation. The only reason you probably haven't seen hyperinflation, and Jeff can correct me on this, but because the U.S. dollar is the global currency, you're not going to get the hyperinflation. As soon as you see a global currency be something other than U.S. dollar, then you can see hyperinflation set in on the United States because we're not going to be as valued. It's not being as valued as much.
Which may be coming sooner or rather than later.
Yeah,
Jeff.
You know, I'm 48 years of age, and I don't recall in my lifetime the amount of places popping up selling gold.
Correct.
I mean, I look around the city and I see these places virtually within 5 miles of each other, and people are concerned because it's costing and taking more and more dollars to live, and people are not planning properly. But the dollar is not going as far as it once did.
Well, and honestly, I agree
and
with that because we're seeing
they can't wrap their head around trillion. Multiply that 14 times. I mean, we can't even pay the interest on the debt. It's incredible, and it's outrageous.
Well, it's incredible. It's outrageous. I mean, it's outrageous that the Senate is passing this Senate financial reform bill, creating this Consumer Financial Protection Agency with this the newest of our czars, the front runner for the director of this organization. This Consumer Financial Protection Agency is this Elizabeth Warren character who has a relationship with a Heather Boone, who happens to be an SDSer who has protested violently against Wall Street in the past, and now we've got this Elizabeth Warren, who's been the principal advocate for the Consumer Financial Predatory Agency, is the front runner to be the director of the damn thing.
And what's her salary?
And what will be her salary? I mean, you've got to think. I mean, if you're known by the company you keep, I have to start to wonder, putting her in this role, which, by the way, is a role specifically doled out by the president to direct this agency, in an agency within an entity, the Federal Reserve, that nobody trusts and everybody universally blames for fixing markets and making things worse than they should have been.
Oh,
Larry?
absolutely. I've always thought we need to audit the Fed, but I'm just getting concerned that here now, if you're a cabinet secretary, you have no more meaning anymore because we got so many czars. Every one of these people that the president is appointing should have to report directly under either cabinet or they're not available. I mean, you got to screen.
So you don't see, Jeff, that we're going to be in a race to the bottom. You don't see that we're going to be lowering the price of goods to next to nothing because we have so much. We're just not spending enough. We've got all this capital in the background we want to put into the markets, and we're just not because we're uncertain. If we had deflation, we'd go ahead.
Well, there's too much instability right now. There's nothing in place, Larry. I'm a big supporter of the fair tax. Okay, most of your corporations, small businesses, they can project when they know what is in place, so that they can plan ahead 20, 30 years in their hiring. Right now, they have nothing in place, so they're hesitant. They're sitting on their cash reserves, if there is any, and it's just they've got to have something structured in order to get us moving in a positive direction. Right now, I mean, everything evolves from, in this administration, from hour to hour, much less day to day.
It's a game of spin the bottle, Russian roulette.
If we'd make the Bush tax cuts permanent right now before the session even gets out, and then you can go back to cutting taxes, cutting payroll taxes, but just make those permanent. Businesses can plan. I've talked to developers, and they're all like, we're leaner, meaner, faster, all chasing government work because the private sector is not doing anything. In the private sector, you got to feed the machine. You get a job going, and while that job's moving, you're looking for your next job. You've got to get government doesn't work that way.
But we can't do that because that would increase our autonomy, which defeats the whole purpose here of government existing to exist and grow. And the fact that we need to rely on them.
You've heard me say this, Joel, before. Mr. President, if you can't afford it, what makes you think you can afford it with interest? And I'd be like Ross Perot. I'm all ears. I'm listening, Mr. President. If you can overcome that objection, email me.
And Dumbo is taking off. We'll see you tomorrow on The Hub.